everyone. You are listening and watching to CTCM Radio, a station for all nations. And today we have a first pilot episode to our HizKidz ministry here at Commitment Church. And we have the privilege of having Marisa, which is our HizKidz ministry director here at Commitment Church. And we have just wonderful, awesome moments that we want to talk to you about. We want to showcase a little bit about what the ministry is doing today, where does it come from, even the fact that we call it HizKidz, and just what God is doing today through Marisa and through the children of Commitment Church. So yeah, let's get right into it. Welcome, Marisa.
Thank you.
This is probably your first episode ever on anything on CTCM Radio, right?
Yes, it is.
So this is cool. So this is real nice because I think the first inclination to most of these interviews, if you guys didn't know, is a very unscripted type of thing. You know, I really like to come in comfortable, come in relaxed, come in just, with the idea that you can't script God.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
can't, and a lot of times, really, the reality behind the scenes, we usually try to put down ideas and things like that to talk about. But then, God always takes it on a different path, on a different direction, because God will then touch our hearts in the midst of these interviews and get into something that maybe people need to hear. Maybe people need to kind of know how the reality of behind the scenes managing a ministry, how much work it takes, how much effort, how much focus, how much of our personal life comes into it, a lot of things, and people need to know these things, So as we showcase the HizKidz ministry, I want you guys to get to know a little bit of who Marisa is. So Marisa, how did you come to, first of all, way back? I mean, we're going way back. How did you find out about Commitment?
So I actually live across the street, but I was never interested in coming. In my head, I wasn't going to a church that was led by an athlete. I just wasn't being preached to by a lunkhead.
Right.
Total.
If you didn't know, our pastor, if this is the first time you see us, he is a ex Philadelphia Eagles player. I think in the 80s and 90s, and so that's what she means by athlete.
Yeah,
If you didn't know.
judgmental on my part, like assuming everything. Thankfully, I was completely wrong about all of that. But I actually work at the local elementary school. And one of the daughters of our former secretary here volunteered at the after-school program that I was working in. And she invited me here to be a part of a closing ceremony for a program that Pastor Cedric had done at the high school. So I came here and for the event, and I really loved it. Unfortunately, where I had gone to church previously, there were some things that were not on the up and up. So I told the Lord that I was good with him, but I'm not doing church anymore. And honestly, up until that point, I hadn't been in church in like 3 years. And people had invited me, and it took a child to bring me back.
Wow.
Which is full circle.
Wow.
Totally amazing.
Wow. I didn't know that. So that's amazing. That's really beautiful to see the full circle. That's really cool. And I think for the longest time, I've always seen you involved with youth and children here at the church. Like it's always been a thing that you always gravitated to. People always gravitated to you for that. And always seemed to, out of all the people that are here, that have kids, right? And you don't have your own children.
I do not have my own.
So that's how like it's like the calling upon your life, like you're not a parent, right? You never had children, and not that you won't, right? But it's a beautiful thing to see the calling upon your life that you would think most parents like to jab at people that technically don't have kids, and they like to jab at people that technically aren't married, and technically they say, well, you don't know anything about this because you haven't, experienced it. But that's how you know.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm like such, I don't know if the right word is advocate of just how you do your thing and how God uses you and just light up. And I'm a big fan of it because if I was to twist and flip the script on my life and look at if I wanted to jab, well, I can't. Why? Because I didn't go to school for what I do. Mm-hmm. I'm not even a high school like graduate. I'm a dropout. I shouldn't even be where I'm at, but by God's grace, God has given me the go ahead, the green light. He's even equipped me in the same way that he's equipped you to be able to do this ministry justice in the right way. So you got here, you committed, I would have to say, right? I don't know, you've recommitted your life to Christ, devotion into coming into the church full time, Sundays and so, well, not full time like as a employee, right? But at least doing what God has called you to do. Now, how long did it take you to then get involved in the church?
So I visited here for a long time. It had to be nearly 2 years where I would visit off and on. There was a moment where I remember looking around and just realizing how much I was falling in love with everyone here. And that scared me. So I didn't come back for like 6 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
But then there was an event with the youth. And I came back and I have been here ever since.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool. So then how long now? So then from that, I think when I came, you weren't here yet, or maybe it was like right in the midst of it. Because like you said, you were in and out for big spaces of time. When I came and I started noticing you, you were sitting in the back row.
Yes.
And you were coming to our rehearsals.
Yeah.
And at that time, Mark Woodard, if you haven't seen like the pilot episode, he was our worship leader from the beginning. He is our OG worship leader. And I would come in, I would have to say not as current, like occurring. I would come once in a while because I was a part of a ministry outside of this church before I fully actually moved into Jersey again, because I got married. I actually got married here. And then I left to Philadelphia, was there for about 1.5 years. And then I came back and fully devoted my time to the ministry here at Commitment. In the midst of that, there was transition happening with Mark and myself, and they had appointed me to be the worship leader, which I did not want, but that's a whole, you can see that episode, whenever you have a chance. But yeah, and it wasn't my cup of tea to be the front man. And like I mentioned before as well, it wasn't everybody's cup of tea to see me to be the front man either. So it was just a hard, kind of realization of I have to start growing up.
Yeah.
It was funny that then in the transition of that, I would see you periodically in the back row. I would see you there kind of observing. You connected with one of our current pastors, Ken Jones, right?
Yes.
And I think that's where maybe some of that started birthing back into your heart to maybe use your talents in worship.
Yes, definitely.
So how did that look like? How did that all happen?
I mean, I've been involved in worship practically my whole life, with the exception of that 2-3 year gap that I wasn't in church.
Yeah.
I absolutely love using music to bring glory to God. And I think it is a special thing, because with music, for me at least, it's easier to say what's on your heart. It's easier to say what you're feeling, and that's what God wants. He wants you to express those things to him. And I'm not the best with words, but put it to music and I'm right there.
Right.
So bringing that back to the worship team, I would come to the practices just to listen, to soak it in, because I love worship that much that I would just want to be around it. I had to be around it.
Yeah, it's like a medicine to the bones, as they say.
Oh yeah.
Big time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. So then I remember early on, you were just taking up the guitar you know, and it wasn't like your primary instrument. It was the instrument you wanted it to be primary instrument.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like, and I bring this up to encourage others that maybe are starting to learn an instrument, you know, and they're insecure about committing to a worship ministry. Now, I understand most churches would rather have like people that are near, like from mid to professional, you know, not beginner, with the aspiration of going to mid.
Yeah.
And being there for a while, because technically you're a mid for a while.
Yeah.
And then you're considered professional if you take it on the road. That's how they look at it. So if you take it on the road and now you're playing with people, you're playing on stages, you know, most of the time people don't even look at like the talent, the talent that is there. I mean, I know a dime a dozen musicians that never have played with bands, never went on the road, and they're just extremely talented.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you can look at shows like American Idol or The Voice, or that's like one of the proof, some of the proof that there's people that are just born with the talent to just go off. I mean, they can play circles around us. You know, they're amazing people. I have friends that are traveling now that before they even got a chance, they're just gifted that way. So I'm encouraged by how God has placed us, right? We're in this ministry, not with a BA, you know, on music or anything crazy, you know, but God is using us.
Yes.
And I think in a lot of ways, he's expanded your talent and where you come from. Like you said, you were a part of worship ministries already before.
Right.
You know?
But I've never played an instrument as part of worship.
Right.
I've been in youth choirs, mass choirs, adult choirs when I got old enough.
Wow.
I've led worship both for youth and the regular congregation. Dance, step, flags, all of that. But the first time that I picked up an instrument was here.
Yeah.
Wow. I've had a not so secret desire to play the harp.
Okay.
But then I looked up how much they cost, and I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll play the guitar.
That's funny. Yeah.
So I've had a guitar for a while, but until I got here and on stage and then connected with Pastor Ken, I didn't really play. It's funny, I haven't heard anyone's journey that sounds like mine as far as learning an instrument.
Now, how long did it take you to learn guitar to where you're at now?
I would comfortably say that I'm still learning.
Yeah, no, definitely. We're always learning, for sure.
Yeah.
I think if I had to say, you didn't take no longer than a year to really get there. Like, really get to a point where you're feeling like, I'm useful.
Yeah.
I can be on a team, you know? That's
There were definitely moments where I did not feel useful.
Yeah. See, we all get there.
But it was really cool because between you and Pastor Ken, you guys were extremely accommodating.
Yeah.
You know, from learning exactly what I needed for the exact songs that we were playing that week, all the way to me having my own personal amp. So only I could hear what I was playing.
I remember that.
And, you know, if there wasn't so much pressure, like I could mess up and it wouldn't be terrible.
Right.
Because only I was the only person who could hear it.
Sure.
And Pastor Ken.
Sure. Yeah. No.
So,
and I think, you know, something very important I can pick out of that, you know, moment of what you just said is that it is supposed to be the church's job to accommodate, right? To and to a certain extent, of course, not, you know, accommodating anything sinful, but and everything that has to do with drawing closer to God in some way, whatever your talent, your calling is, we should be good at finding a way to help you feel comfortable, to express yourself, to open up.
And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah. And it's a beautiful thing to see that there are still churches out there that get it that way, you know, and that they're ready to really open up, like not have this crazy pressure to be perfect, right? You know, and who is, why then kind of pretend, right? And I think it's a beautiful thing what God is doing at Commitment, you know, and I try not to like even push too much my church when it comes to that, because I'm so proud of it, you know, and I'm just like, this is such a great atmosphere that we can. And I think our pastor is also a blessing because he understands artists. He understands how much of a mess we are. He understands we're never
Totally.
we're never on point with anything.
No,
and we
not at
need a
all.
lot of guidance and reminders and just back to back sticky notes. This whole wall would be filled with sticky
Yeah.
notes to let us know just what's gonna happen on Sunday. It's just crazy, and he's such a great like artist cheerleader.
Yes,
you know, he's there all
definitely.
the time. You know, I've mentioned before in other videos that we get together every week Thursdays. If he's not in town, understandable. He actually is now one of the district superintendents to the EFCA, Evangelical Free Church of America, and he's constantly now out of state or not in the building. But he's made it a point from time to time to actually FaceTime me while he's on the road. We'll have our talks, and that helps me a lot because I'm, again, knowing the heartbeat of where God is using our pastor, from the sermons to what he's going through at home, to all of the personal things that maybe I may be going through. I need to vent into somebody that I can trust, and he's always there to try to do that. And I know he does that for everybody as well here, as best as he can. I mean, he was almost, from the beginning I came, he was almost in every birth that would happen in the church. That, I mean, now it's just too much, right? But it's like, if he can help it, he'd be there in every birth.
Definitely.
You know, and it was such a blessing to see him be there. Like, he was part of the family, taking pictures and everything. It was really cool. And but now we're like trying to, like, you know, push the legacy, you know, the things that we've learned from our leadership, from our pastor. We're now trying to push that forward to the future. You know, and I think it's a beautiful thing that what you've gone through, all the journey that you've gone through to even be a part of Commitment, has led you to a place, as you said, full circle, to a place where you're now like kind of paying it forward with our children. And it's such a blessing because, you know, you're not like how I would say, just roughly, like out of the street hire, you know, to manage the ministry, right? You've been here from almost inception, right? You know, like, we've been here early on, been through a lot of the thick and thin of establishing what this church is now. You know the vision, you know, even through being a part of worship and then going into youth and then learning with the children, being a part of it now. You're like the perfect candidate to lead our children into the future.
Thank you.
Yeah, because you have, I mean, I pray everybody sees it as I know a lot of people do, but the future of people that come in see that in our DNA, there are people that are just called to be a part of this DNA of commitment because we've been here from the beginning. Before they were even ministries named now, you know, the people were here. And then God kind of birthed these ministries. So in a lot of ways, HizKidz ministry, as we call it here affectionately, we even misspell it to make it a beautiful poetic justice, you know, like HizKidz with Z's at the end. And, you know, we have that little, you know, that beautiful tonality to our children. We're a mosh posh of so many different races and cultures coming in here that it just makes sense, you know, just how God is using you through all of that, because you get it, you understand. You know, if I was to really pick a little bit on even just race and culture, I mean, I'm Puerto Rican, you're black, right? And we have, I mean, your mentor, you know, white, you know, my mentor, black, you know, I actually made Mark, my kid's godfather, my firstborn. You know, I made it a point to keep picking outside of my race and culture, parents for my children. And not that you see a lot of that being honored nowadays, you know, people like the newer, I would say, I don't know if millennials or whatever, they don't really do that much, but I still carry a lot of the culture of that. And I love the fact that if anything brings more people into your family circle.
Yes,
it
definitely.
really expands. I have this thing where I say we're the immediate family at home, right? The people you live with. Then there's the extended family, which is, well, I say outside family, which is like your actual family members, aunts, uncles. But then the extended family would be your church people, your people that you break bread with on a regular basis. You go to the same church, go to the same schools. You know, you guys are actual friends that you can call family. And I think it's a
Yes.
beautiful thing to do that. So I think if anything, the whole godfather, godmother thing, that's a beautiful thing to have. And other things that people, you know, here in our church, we totally like embrace everybody's cultural differences, because we want to help people understand that God made it all.
Yeah.
You know, God made it all for us to continue to enrich and expand our family reaches. So there wouldn't be any HizKidz ministry that's like ours if it wasn't the embrace of many cultures and many things. So give us an example of what a HizKidz, like, you know, class looks like on a Sunday morning.
So Sunday mornings, the kids start off downstairs and they participate in worship with the whole congregation. When worship is finished and Pastor Cedric is ready, or any of the pastors are ready to go up and do their message, then the kids come upstairs for HizKidz. We do worship again. I guess, as you know, because I am a worship leader, I find it very important to emphasize worship. So we're doing it again.
Yeah.
That's
That's so valuable.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, worshiping God should be our life.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, bringing
Absolutely.
glory and honor to Him.